What would you do if you were walking through the woods and heard someone screaming from underground? Most people would run. Most people would convince themselves it was the wind, an animal, anything but what it actually was. But this little girl, she grabbed the dirt with her bare hands and started digging. And what she pulled out of that ground changed both of their lives forever. Her name was Mia, 8 years old, messy hair, worn-out boots, the kind of kid nobody really notices. She lived in a small village on the edge of a forest in Eastern Europe with her grandmother. No parents in the picture, no money, just the two of them, scraping by day after day. Every evening after school, Mia would cut through the forest to get home faster. She knew that path better than anyone. Every root, every turn, every hollow tree. That forest was basically her backyard. But one October evening, something was different. It was getting dark faster than usual. The leaves were thick on the ground, crunching under her feet. And then she heard it, a sound so muffled she almost missed it, like someone groaning, far away but close enough to stop her in her tracks. She stood still, listened. It came again, louder this time, coming from the ground itself. Any other kid would have bolted, but Mia crouched down and pressed her ear to the dirt. And that's when she heard it clearly, a man's voice, weak and desperate, saying one word over and over. "Help!" She didn't scream. She didn't freeze. She just started digging with her hands. No shovel, no tools, nothing. Just her small fingers clawing through the cold, damp earth. She dug for what felt like forever until she felt something. A hand, a real human hand, reaching back up to grab hers. She pulled. He pushed from below, and slowly, piece by piece, a man's face broke through the surface, gasping for air like he'd been underwater. His name was Victor, and he was one of the richest men in the region. Victor was a 54-year-old businessman, self-made, sharp, the kind of man who built companies from nothing and turned them into empires. He had a mansion, a fleet of cars, and more money than most people would ever see in their lifetime. But he also had enemies. 3 days earlier, Victor had been kidnapped by two former business partners who felt he had cheated them out of millions. They drugged him, drove him into the woods, and buried him alive in a shallow grave with just enough air to keep him breathing, but not enough to survive much longer. They left him there to die slowly, thinking no one would ever find him. They did not count on Mia. When she finally got him out, Victor could barely move. His hands were bleeding. His face was caked in dirt. He could barely speak. Mia took off her jacket, the only warm thing she had, and wrapped it around him. Then she ran to the nearest road and flagged down a passing car. Victor was rushed to the hospital. The doctor said that if Mia had found him even 2 hours later, he would not have survived. The air pocket he'd been surviving on was nearly gone. While Victor recovered in the hospital, the police launched an investigation. Within 48 hours, the two men responsible were arrested. They had underestimated everything. Victor's will to survive, the forest, and one little girl in worn-out boots. When Victor finally woke up fully, his first question was about Mia. He asked the nurses, the doctors, the police, "Who is this girl? Where is she? I need to see her." When Mia walked into his hospital room a few days later, still in her school clothes, Victor could barely hold it together. He reached out his hand, the same hand she had grabbed in the dirt, and he held hers. He said, "You didn't have to stop. You didn't have to help me. Why did you?" And Mia just shrugged and said, "Because you needed help." 8 years old. That's simple. What happened next spread across the entire country. Victor, a man who had spent his whole career calculating every move, making every decision based on profit and strategy, said that moment cracked something open in him. He called it the most important business lesson he ever learned, and he learned it from a child. He immediately set up a full education fund for Mia, not just school, university, travel, everything she would ever need to build whatever future she wanted. He also renovated her grandmother's home, which had been falling apart for years. But he didn't stop there. Victor went on to create a foundation in Mia's name, focused entirely on giving children in rural areas access to better education and emergency resources. He donated millions. He sold one of his properties specifically to fund the first phase of the project. He said publicly, "I built my wealth thinking money was the most powerful thing in the world. But an 8-year-old girl with nothing showed me what real power looks like. It looks like choosing to help someone even when you don't have to." Mia, for her part, became something of a quiet legend in her village. She didn't want attention. She didn't do interviews. When journalists tried to talk to her, she mostly just looked confused about what the big deal was. But her story hit millions of people online. Comments poured in from all over the world. Parents saying they read the story to their kids before bed. Teachers printing it out for classrooms. People saying it made them want to be better. Because here's the thing about Mia's story that really gets you. It wasn't complicated. She didn't have a plan. She didn't call for backup. She just heard someone who needed help and used her bare hands to do something about it. In a world that constantly tells us we need more resources, more power, more connections, a little girl with nothing proved that the most important thing you can have is the decision to act. Victor recovered fully. He still runs his businesses, but people who know him say he's different now. Quieter, more patient. He keeps a photo of that forest path on his desk, as a reminder of the day someone chose to save him for no reason, other than it was the right thing to do. And Mia, she's still in school, still cutting through that same forest every evening. Still the kid nobody really notices, except now the whole world is watching. Hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what's coming next.